Hey Blue Table fans, today we're taking a look at some terrain that I made. It's these palm trees, and I made, you don't even see all of them here. I made 12 stands of them. Here's my fingers, so you can see these guys are probably between 6 and 11 inches tall. They look great, they are great. I'm so amazing at making terrain. It makes me happy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I did and also the materials that I use. So first off, there are supply chain issues. It's been a month and a half. I've been trying to get regular MDF board for this and other projects. I've been looking for 3/16 inch board. This is 1/8 inch board, so this is what MDF looks like. I don't even know what it stands for. And basically I just cut it out with a skill saw, and I use a band saw to create these bevels, and lo and behold, you end up with a really great long-lasting basis for terrain. They don't really warp, there's really no problems with them, and they just absolutely make me happy. But what's weird is what's available at local hardware shops is this, which is the exact same thing. It's a slightly lighter colored MDF board, but functionally it's the same thing. But it's got dry erase marker on one side and a chalkboard on another side. So I've created these for another project, a ruined city thing that I'm doing. And of course these haven't been beveled the same, you know, at a 45-degree angle like these. And there's a reason for that. They're not supposed to be. But I was afraid that this would chip a lot, and it hasn't. It's perfectly fine. There's functionally nothing wrong with it. I was worried that maybe it wouldn't take primer, but it did. This is what these things are on, and because of the coatings, it's actually slightly thicker. And I think it's actually thicker than 1/8 of an inch, just for the core MDF part of it. And the other concern is I have to wear a mask while doing it, because obviously these things are made of like chemicals or whatever. I'm not sure, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah, and they make a lot of sawdust. So I have these are really wonderful. They're extremely sturdy. They make sense, and this is only like $1 a sheet more. This stuff, at least where I'm from, it comes in 2 foot by 4 foot sections, and I love this dry erase stuff. I'm actually going to get some dry erase markers and start buying sheets of this, and I need to get down to the store today and just pick up a bunch more of this before it runs out, because apparently they can't get an MDF board. I don't even know what the heck's going on. So let's get back to these amazing palm trees. So first off, I cut off these flats and I beveled them. I deburred the bottom of them, because obviously you don't want to bevel them on the top and the bottom. And so and then I took extruded styrofoam, and I just started breaking off pieces. This is mostly just me with my hands. I did get a hand saw and cut them long ways to create these thinner sheets. I hot glued those on, and then I hot glued on the palm trees, and they come with little spikes on them, which are typically too long. They actually are thicker than a lot of this extruded styrofoam that you're sticking them into. So I did have to cut them off, and I also twisted them as I put them in, so it would create actually a little hole where, so these are actually embedded in there. It's not even on all of them. And then there's a little spike, and so that and the hot glue, these guys, they're really on there. One of my sons actually thought it was rebar, asked if this was rebar that I had painted. No, it's not. It's just the plastic palm trees. Now these palm trees, they're, in terms of expense, they're not too expensive. I got them off of Etsy. I think it's like $1 a palm tree, which actually really isn't too bad, but don't quote me on that. And then what I did is I had a bunch of palm trees left over. I got lots of different sizes and scales. So this isn't a small palm tree, it's just a different scale. And so it's hard to tell online, you know, what people are selling. So what I did is I took the tops off and I made these ferns, and it worked really, really, really well. So the next step that I did is I hand painted all of the rocks with blackish brown paint. And the reason for that is I wanted to spray prime them, but you can't spray prime onto the extruded styrofoam because the acetone or whatever they put in the primer will, like the medium, it will actually eat the styrofoam and you won't be able to do much on top of it. It won't work very well. So then you hand paint that on, and you'll actually get a little paint onto the palm trees. Don't worry about that. After that dries, I went in with black spray paint, black primer, and I primed around the edges because at that time this whiteboard type stuff was showing through. So what you do is, yeah, so you prime that, and then I used different sprays. I used, actually I just used a dark brown spray. I dark brown sprayed on top of that. And of course, the problem there is you get a little bit on the pine trees, or on the palm trees. Don't worry about that at all. In fact, you can see a place here where there's still a little black showing through, which is fine. You want those variations, you want those vagaries, because it's going to make for a more natural looking result. So once I had that, I did a gray dry brush on just some areas where I thought I might let the rocks show through. Here you can see a little bit of gray on there. And but a dark gray, and I got it on the palm trees too. I just dry brushed on that dark gray, and that gives them a more realistic appearance. Then I took a brown and black wash, very thin down, and I put it on the palm trees because in fact, this is kind of what they look like when they're new. That one's too bright. So I washed them good. It was like a lot, and I washed the sides of them too. And that gray dry brush, by the way, that's where you get rid of this little, black that was creeping up there. But again, it's not a problem that it's there. It actually adds to it. And when you put these all together, man, you got quite a jungle. This is about half of the amount that I made. And okay, so and I actually did this project to make sure this was good to go for the city project that I'm doing with the client. Like, this whiteboard stuff would not create a problem, and it doesn't. It can be primed on top of, and then of course once you get the primer on, you're home free. You can do anything you want with it. And okay, so then what did I do? Yeah, I put a wash on that. I put a wash on the ferns, and the ferns went on last. That's the absolute last thing that I did. So then I took PVA glue or white glue or Elmer's glue, and I wherever I wanted the flock, that's where I put it. And so almost over the whole thing. That was also an opportunity to go up on the edges like this and create a little bit more variation, and also to cover up black areas where I had slopped with the primer or with the hand painting that I was doing here on the rocks. And then of course I dipped it into the flock. I had two different types of flock, so I would dip it simultaneously. So the glue would be over the whole thing, so I would just put in like half of it in one, and then I'd sprinkle on some of this lighter colored stuff. And of course that creates some variation. There's bald spots where you see that dark brown coming through. That is fine. That's actually desirable because it lends to sort of the natural feel of it. And then I matte coated it. And I matte coated it really good. And that was after the glue dried completely. And oh yeah, but before that, I actually took some canned air and I spritzed off all the loose flock on it. You can do that by blowing on it, but that of course takes longer. And then I matte coated it pretty thick. I gave it a good triple coat at least, and because with terrain you got it to be really good. So none of this doesn't really come off now. It's stuck on there. Then I put the ferns on. I just put a blob of hot glue, pulled it up so the strand that it leaves would go up to the top rather than off the side. That makes it easier to pull it off. And then I just pulled the top off the palms that were left and made them into ferns by sticking them on like that. So all in all, this set turned out really well. I'm super happy. Like, this palm tree going off at an angle just makes it look so realistic. And guys, this looks so wonderful. It looks great on the board, as you'll see in this battle report that I'm putting up soon. I am on the side. I'm picking away at a Warhammer Fantasy style Lizardmen army, and this is going to go really well with that. Going to get some Lizardmen terrain. And all projects are moving forward in some fashion. I could actually fit on a few new projects, maybe one or two. And I've got a lot of good artists on staff, and they're ready to go. And okay, well, that's all I got to say about this. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got your jungly inspiration for the day.